Everybody, welcome to Poker with Kids, vlog number 39. This time coming to you from the Gold Coast Hills. In the background, you might be able to see, if you can ignore the fog, just a hint of the Gold Coast and the skyscrapers on the water. But thought I'd come up here and talk a little bit about what I've been doing lately. It's been a little while since I put out a vlog. Basically, I've played really only three times since I last did a vlog. The first of those was at the APL 360 event.
That was held at Southport Sharks. It's actually an AFL club up here on the Gold Coast. Quite a few famous names from AFL there, including Nick Riewoldt. There's a quick shot of the registration desk and a bit of a shot from inside the hall. This was again day 3 where they had around about 150 players and probably a bit over half the hall filled up. And this is my start stack for the tournament.
This is an interesting event that was put on by APL as, I think, a bit of a stopgap measure for when the COVID restrictions started getting lifted. They weren't the plan had been to put on the APL Poker Tour event. That was what they were sort of building to. And I think they've only recently announced that it'll be on in early February, also at Southport Sharks, where the APL 360 was. But this event sort of seemed like a bit of a stopgap event. Effectively, it was 3 days of the same event. It was a $60, or they called it a main event, with 2 other smaller side events. I think they were $25 buy-in sort of later in the afternoon. And they had sort of like an estimated $10,000 prize pool for each day. Turned out I could only play on the third day. Turned out they had, I think, ended up with about 7,500 in the prize pool, so about 150 players. Finished midfield, so nothing particularly impressive or important to speak about in terms of results. But the idea of putting a sort of an interim poker series, as it were, on and seeing what kind of response they got for that. So that was kind of as the restrictions were starting to lift in Queensland, and you could do a little bit in terms of things like poker in clubs and stuff like that, which had been previously shut down with all the COVID stuff going on. The second event that I played was the Check Raise Poker. They call it the Six Max Super Series, which, again, related to the COVID restrictions. The idea being that 6 max was their limit to how many they could have per table.
And this is the main hall at Acacia Ridge where the tournament was held. You see the tables all set up there. This is one of the presentation areas, one of the display banners, and the various trophies that were up for grabs during the series. And during my stay at the short deck tournament, start stack, and this was after one of the early double ups, I think at the first break. This was, I think, probably a second break, and the final table on the short stack there coming in, but it turned out okay.
I ended up just playing the one event, the short deck event. The irony of that is at the start they had the designated start time. I think it was 8 p.m. start time. They had 3 players registered, so they put back the start time. Ended up starting the event at just after 9 o'clock, which was actually after the late rego should have finished. I think it was about an hour of late rego. So it was basically when late rego was supposed to finish is when they actually started the event. And it turned out that they had 8 starters. For whatever reason, rather than doing the let's have 2 tables of 4, they decided, well, we'll just have 1 table of 8. And then as soon as players started busting out of one of the main event flights, which was on at the same time, they're like, oh no, now we've got to put more we've got to move people to tables and stuff like that. So it was a little bit disorganized at the start, not only with the numbers but also with the planning of tables. But having said that, it turned out okay results wise for me. Ended up coming third. It was a bit of a funny situation where you had some players. They have a player of the series award there. You get points for playing in an event, and obviously if you cash in an event you get more points. So what a lot of lot of the players that have played in a lot of events and were sort of looking at the Player of the Series title and the prize money that goes with that, they effectively just turned up, went, okay, I'm going to go all in. I'll turn up. Don't worry about giving me small chips. All I need is my 30k start stack. It's going in the first hand. I sit down, regardless of what cards I've got. If I double up, I double up. If I don't, I don't. I get my, whatever the participation points were for the event. If I bust, I can just go back to playing in the main event, which most of them were. If I bust the main event, then I can come back to my stack. If I double up, I've got chips to be able to sit out for a few rounds and then come back and play if they bust later from the main. So we had a few players that did that. They sort of rocked up, but some of them didn't even bother to sit down. They just kind of stood over their chair, didn't even look at the cards, just put their stack in, and effectively had to hope that you could beat a random hand. So I got one of these gifts relatively early on. I think it was pocket tens held up against 9-7 offsuit or something like that. It wasn't, as usual, it wasn't without a sweat, but it held up. So I doubled up. So early on, I had some chips. Got into a few not so good spots a little bit later as I was getting down to the final few tables, and actually ended up going into the final table as the short stack. They ended up going with seven for the final table, which makes sense. So at the final table, the play seemed to turn a bit passive. Bit unusual. You'd often just have a player single raise would be enough to take down the pot pre-flop. You'd often get a few players limping and then doing something post-flop. But every now and again, you had someone that decided to go a bit crazy and just shove. Most of the time, it took down the hand, but the hand that really started to turn the final table was one where I think the probably second or third shortest stack of the table ended up doubling up with a bit of change. So actually, no, more like tripled up. So a player opened. The next player act, rather than putting in a normal kind of 3-bet, he was like, well, I'm all in. Next guy, who was the short stack, went, okay, well, I call. The first guy got out of the way, and it turned out that it was aces for... Actually, no, it might have been kings. I think it might have actually been aces. Aces for the player who shoved, and ace-king suited for the short stack. You know, well, the other guy's like, you weren't supposed to call. It's like, well, I got ace-king suited. How can I fold? Turned out that I think ace-king made a straight, so he won the pot, double up plus a bit of change. That put him up to about second or third in chips at the final table. And then he proceeded to win almost every single hand that he played from then on. And he literally knocked out every single player at the final table. He actually started, the player to his direct left was the first one out, and then he literally went around the table, knocked out the player to their left, the player to their left. As it turned out, I was 2 seats away from him. And yeah, actually no, I was 3 seats away. The guy who actually doubled him up in that hand, he spoiled the pattern and went out a little bit early. But apart from that, it was just like you just go around the table, knock that guy out, next guy out. And yeah, he went on this big rush to end up winning a tournament. I ended up finishing third. Picked up a couple $100, which I can't complain about.
And here's the little third place photo.
And overall, the series seemed to be pretty reasonable. Not quite the level of the APT. I think check raises, compared to the APT, it's more like it's its own league, whereas APT is more of an amalgamation or a grouping of a number of leagues together. So you get sort of a bigger player base. So the APT events tend to be bigger. Having said that, check raise events seemed fine. The venue, Acacia Ridge, it's okay, and it's undergoing some changes and renovations. So it was the car park was partly blocked off and stuff like that. So not ideal, but it's a venue. So yeah, that was the second event that I played. That was probably a little over a month ago now. And more recently, I managed to get in an APL day game. I had a day off just a couple of weeks ago with work and school finishing up for the year, so I had a day off. Decided to go play an event, and turned out to come third. Made again a little bit of a profit, but the weird bit about that one was just how things worked out on the final table. You ended up by the time we actually finished up, it actually ended up with a three-way all-in as the final hand. But I think there was a combined total of about 6 big blinds on the table. The blind at the conclusion were like 100, 200, and I think there was about 1.3 million in chips in play. So it was just ridiculous. Where it's like, oh look, I've got 1.5 big bets and big blinds, and oh the person to my the other person's got he's got 2 big blinds, and the chip leader she's got 3.5 big blinds, and it was just one of those one of those tournaments that just became stupid at the end with the blinds compared to the chip sacks. But what can you do? It's once you made the money, it effectively became potluck as to what place you were going to get once you made the money. But no, obviously happy to make the money, but third place is third place. So that was what I've been doing in terms of playing. The big news up here, though, is that the casino has opened up again for poker, both Star on the Gold Coast as well as Treasury up in Brisbane. I haven't been to the casino play, but I'm hoping to maybe get there sometime over the Christmas New Year period. Obviously, if I do, I'll put something in the vlog. But yeah, that's something to look forward to. But having said that, by the same token, I actually think today there was actually a tweet from Star in Sydney that basically said they're not running poker. Quite the opposite, even though it is the same company. And that was after the casino capacity in Sydney, some of their restrictions have been lifted, and the capacity for the casino had been increased. So you'd think if they were going to do anything with poker, it would be to get things back up. So Sydney and Melbourne, I know Melbourne, I saw a video the other day of the basement area where the poker room had been for many, many years. They've basically taken out all the poker tables, and they've now just got like stand-up table games, blackjack, and that type of stuff, all throughout that downstairs area that was the poker room. So I think maybe Melbourne could be struggling in terms of getting poker back up, or if they do, it'll be probably at least a few days before any kind of announcement, if they do make an announcement, because they just physically have to get the tables that they've got there out and put the poker tables back in. I don't imagine that they could do that, overnight. So if there is going to be any kind of change with poker in Melbourne at Crown, it's probably going to take a bit longer. And obviously with the announcement at Star Sydney that they're postponing poker cash game and tournament indefinitely, that's another kind of obstacle to poker up there. But up here in Queensland, seems to be getting back to relative normality. We've got the APT series coming up in January up at Eaton's Hill. A big 6-day series, should be huge. I'm hoping to play a few events. I'll see how things go in terms of work and timing and all that sort of stuff, but hoping to get up there and play a few events. And I think that should be a good series. I don't think we've got guarantees back, but they've given an estimated $1 million prize pool across the entire series, and I wouldn't be surprised if that got at the very least it got reached, if not well and truly blown out of the water, like most of the APT guarantees or estimates have been in recent times. But that's going to wrap up vlog number 39. Hope you've enjoyed it, and hope to see you again at another poker vlog soon.